A lot of players in the interview process referred to Microtech Controller Sea Giant as the package, where it was one of those things, if your opponent didn't check the board, great, you got a Grim Rally turn. If your opponent did try to do something to check the board, well, it was only a Microtech controller, or the check to the board was just creating tension, and thus it opened you to a Sea Giant. But we're kicking things off with a Shaman versus Shaman matchup, and A8, like we said, a more mid-rangey to aggressive style of deck. It does feature Bloodlust and Storm Chaser as part of a package in there, so if you stabilize a board, you're able to eliminate an opponent. So, you know, in an open deckless format like this, the threat of lethal is ever present. And it tops out using Cairn, Reign of Toads, Swap Queen Hagatha, and 2 copies of Sea Giant that are packed into there. The rest of it is sort of an overload and stick to the board package with Soul of the Murlocs.
Yeah. And I talked to the players backstage a little bit before they went up, and they both kind of agreed that Just Saying is a 51% to 49% favorite in the series. Because of the fact that his tech choices are a little bit better in the matchup, and also because of these Shaman decks. While a lot of the cards are very similar, the cards that aren't similar kind of give Just Saying a little bit of an edge in the late game. And A8, in the interviews that we had with the talent and the players earlier on in the week, he said that he's kind of got to cheese some people with this Shaman deck to push it through a lot of lineups. And I feel like this is one of those matchups where you kind of got to have an unchecked Unbound Elemental, or get an early Bloodlust and dodge some AoE, or stick a Sea Giant and hit him for a lot.
Which I don't think is actually too difficult for him to do. There is 2 copies of Soul of the Murloc if you manage to get a wide board state. And Sea Giant, well, I mean, we've seen how Sea Giant works before. It's, you know, there's enough minions on board. It's very cheap and it's very large.
Yeah.
On Saiyan's side with the Control Shaman, you know, he still has that bit of an overload package with the Thunderhead and some overload cards that are in there. But at his top end, we're looking at Hagatha schemes, Ziliax, Hagatha in general, which A8 has excluded from his quote-unquote mid-range deck, which I will then point out that it is in fact not mid-range because there is no Hagatha. And Saiyan also has 2 copies of Walking Fountain for that big endgame stabilization point, kind of acting as that Reno Jackson-style card. But it also ends up fighting for board. A8 here with a nice early advantage on the Ooze on a Lickum, though.
Yeah, the Ooze on the Lickum is a big deal. Lickum is just one of the most broken cards in Shaman right now. Even though I don't think Shaman is a top-tier class, it struggles a little bit on ladder because it can't stabilize. It can't, like, tech for everything.
Yeah.
You either kind of try and be warrior, try and be rogue, and it's hard to beat both. It doesn't have that overlap. And even in tournaments, I feel like it just doesn't do powerful enough things. It doesn't have as good of board generation as, say, Mage. It doesn't have as good of control tools as Warrior. But it's great in a Conquest lineup because it acts as kind of that 4th deck that allows you to target a specific strategy that you like.
And Saiyan here with an interesting turn on 3, just chooses to do nothing. I quite like this, and the major reason I'm looking at right now is Thunderhead and the double zap in hand. That alone is going to create 5 minions. If he manages to draw Lightning Bolt, the totem actually could be taking up space in this spot. I'm a little bit curious he doesn't use it at all. You know, I think a lot of times it does bait an attack here, but basically just wants to compensate for board space in the most total of ways possible so that no weird totem shenanigans ends up happening by having too many minions on board.
Yeah, and they're just going to go ahead and completely clear up the board here and stick this Thunderhead, which honestly is kind of the bane of A8's existence.
Right.
The one downfall of his deck, I feel, is just the fact that it doesn't really have any card draw or generation. It doesn't run like Farsight, it doesn't have Hagatha, it doesn't have ways to just come back to a game that they've lost the board and they've lost the resource battle.
It definitely, that being said, I think it is quite tough for A8 to just outright lose a resource battle. I think it's a quite long-winded one at that. You know, I'm looking at the Sunreaver Warmage. It's a lone copy of that in the deck, but the battle cry of 4 damage on that card is pretty serious when it comes to tempo and card advantage fights. And Rain of Frogs is a pretty annoying card for decks that really want to make sure that they keep your board very clean. Because what's happening is they're expending their own resources to do it. And so Rain of Frogs just having so much punch packed into one card, I think really makes that a tricky situation for a lot of decks.
Yeah, and I feel like the way that A8 wins this game a lot is by sticking a Reign of Toads, potentially with a Soul of the Murlocs. Because one downfall of Shaman is that it doesn't have great ways to deal with like 2-stage board effects.
Yeah.
It can deal with one with Hagatha scheme, which can deal with pretty much the largest of board states. But if those all have death rattles, it doesn't deal with the rest very effectively. And so if A lands a board of Reign of Toads with maybe a totem or 2, and a Soul of the Murlocs and finishes the game with the Bloodlust, that's a big opportunity for him to find a win.
Yeah, and kind of looking at it from a top-down perspective because of that, it's one of the reasons that I think that the Shaman deck for Saiyan is tilting the matchup in his favor. Is right now A8 is in a position where they're essentially playing the same style of game plan, which is more of an annoyance to the opponent until you can deliver like a major swing turn here. But when you match those up side by side, like Saiyan has so much stuff. You know, the fact that he's a step slower gives him such a massive benefit in a long-winded game like this.
Yeah, I agree. And you can see Just Saiyan foregoing the totem up.
Yeah, this one I'm a little...
It's Sea-Giant. It's almost 100%
Oh,
for
yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many matchups nowadays where you don't want a minion on the board that's not really doing anything. Sea-Giant is a tech card in a lot of aggressive decks with aggressive Shamans, maybe running it about 40 to 50% of the time. And then, of course, Zoo Warlock, which is one of the most popular archetypes in the field. We're going to be seeing that a lot. We even saw it in the first series of the day where Frodan and Brian Kibler were casting.
Here we go, getting aggressive now.
I like it.
I like it too. It's just Saiyan really has a hand that does a number of this style of play here. Scheme is at 4 damage currently. Saiyan probably looking to hang on to Scheme until he can land it on a Rain of Toads, and that's exactly what A8 I think is trying to force onto the side of Saiyan. Is, you know, with the big pressure this turn, sure, like the weapon gets oozed or what have you, but there's still that 4/4 that would be clocking away in the meantime. And Saiyan is always going to be worried about Bloodlust pressure and what it means.
Yeah.
He's always going to be trying to avoid that disastrous situation occurring, so that way, you know, he can stay alive and win the game. So I think in this situation, he's really got his back against the wall where he has to make a choice. Do I want to go for a Hagathis Scheme Ooze style turn? Do I want to overload massively with like an Electra Lightning Storm sort of situation? There's just a ton going on, and I'm not sure what the best course of action here is.
Always little time.
All of his plays that deal with the board effectively overload him too much to have an answer to Rain of Toads on the following turn.
Yeah, he's just going to go for it straight up.
Yeah. The only thing that, while it's not a direct answer to Rain of Toads, because he can play his own Rain of Toads next turn and then follow that up with a Lightning Storm, that's effectively his 3-turn plan to answer that potential Rain of Toads.
Yeah, he's also got the option for like an Electra Lightning Storm as well that's backed in there. It's a lot of stuff to use to, you know, take care of that, but, you know, you have options.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important thing. So now the really thing to consider is that with A8 playing the Rain of Frogs here, Saiyan has 1 copy of Lightning Storm in the A8's deck. And so that's another thing he has to consider here, is if he goes for his own Rain of Toads and the board gets softened, what does that mean for like the next Rain of Toads? If he spends the Electra Lightning Storm too early, what does that mean for future implications? His main game plan is just to basically be as annoying as possible and not die.
Ethereal Lackey is probably the best in this style of deck. In any control style matchup that runs Lackey, there's not that many. Shaman is one of the only ones. The Ethereal Lackey allows you to get that Lightning Storm, that Hagathis Scheme.
Yeah.
Something that allows you to have that backup board clear or backup control tool if you need it.
And look at how the mana panned out here for Saiyan as well. With 3 mana worth of cards next turn to play with the Lickum and the Ethereal Lackey. 3 mana after this massive overload turn. This is very well managed mana here from Saiyan. I think that's a big benefit of going for the Scheme and the Ooze last turn. It was the most board implication, and it let you have a strong mana turn like this one.
Yeah.
And A8, meanwhile, with the overload, the opposite story.
Yeah, and this is what we talked about, just no real super high value generation in the deck, because he doesn't have Hagatha, he doesn't have that tool to fall back on to generate spells that can win him the game. Without Farsight, he doesn't have the ability to try and cycle through his deck a little bit faster to find those key cards.
Yeah, I think Farsight would be a bit much in this deck, because I think the key cards
it doesn't make sense in the deck.
Yeah, it's like a redundancy deck.
It is a redundancy deck. This deck, like I talked about earlier, kind of just tries to do everything it can to stick a board before turn 10.
It's trying to cheese him.
It's trying to cheese him. Yeah, that's exactly what it's trying to do.
Looking at powerful draws for A8 right now. Cairn, Swamp Queen Hagatha, Storm Chaser I think would be pretty good still. Thunderhead's pretty good. And Sea Giant perhaps can be good. Outside of those, though, A8 is really running short but he has Saiyan down to 18. Now, the thing I look at on Saiyan's side is there's no shortage of ways to defend himself. Ziliak's still in the deck. Hagatha's still in the deck. 2 Walking Fountains still in the deck. 2 Witch's Brew still in the deck. That is a lot of stuff that puts Saiyan in a massive stabilizing turn. That stabilizing turn is going to lose A8 the game if it occurs.
Which at this point, it kind of looks inevitable with the way A8's hand has panned out. Yes, he has Rain of Toads, but it feels like Just Saiyan has to check for that. He's got his own Rain of Toads, plus a Lightning Storm to follow it up after the board is a little bit softened.
I like going for the Blazing Invocation here. Has a chance to discover Swamp Queen Hagatha as one of the new ones. Makes a 5/5, and you teach it 2 spells.
Or even Shudderwalk, honestly.
It's all grown up to a nice big swamp thing. I don't know. I actually don't know what the name of the token's called.
I don't know either. Swamp Chucklehead.
So TJ.
Out of my swamp, Chucklehead.
Yeah, pretty ugly looking spot. A8 would have loved to see that Soul of the Murlocs on a turn where he's able to stick some minions in play.
Yeah.
The overload management for A8's deck is, I played a bit of this deck on ladder because I actually quite like it. I think it's, smartly built and has a strong game plan. The thing that I found most troublesome, though, is mana management. The overload and the important mana turns just seemingly never lined up. And it was just all the powerful stuff my opponent was doing and the counter measures that I had, just a mana short every single time. Yeah, that's not a good looking turn.
Not at all.
Oh boy.
Yeah. You talked about it earlier, the Lightning Storm in A8's deck. Doesn't want to go too deep into the play into Lightning Storm territory.
Yeah, A8, he was just missing the right tools to get a critical turn. Like anything with critical mass, still missing the Bloodlust at that. Saiyan actually going to take Chef Nomi.
He's just going to play it.
Just wants the big thing in play. Smile from both players.
It's really funny. I talked earlier about how I talked to them backstage a little bit. Now I asked them about the matchup. I asked them how they, if they had any trash talk for each other. And both these guys are the most calm, relaxed, soft-spoken individuals. No trash talk will ever come out of their mouths, I don't think. But the only thing Just Saying could muster was that he was upset that the makeup artist spent more time on A8 than they spent on him. They didn't think they gave him the necessary attention that he deserved in the makeup room. But this is about as close to trash talk as you're going to get when he just picks Nomi off the Blazing Invocation, plays it in emotes. That's about as aggressive as Just Saying's ever going to get.
Yeah, I could definitely say with confidence that I think Hecklebot is more aggressive than Saiyan's ever been.
He's played some aggressive decks in the past, though. Honestly, Just Saying, people talk about Hunter Ace and his amazing run this year, but if you remember correctly, Just Saying throughout HCT, including tour stops and playoffs and championships, had a 33-match win streak at some point in 2018.
That's it?
Just an incredible run. And his total record, now we talked about Bunny Hopper's impressive run. He had an 85% win rate. That's continuing to grow across the event here. But that was like a 40-game sample size.
Well,
Just Saying has managed a 70% win rate, nearly, across HCT in 2018/2019.
Honestly, his run was ridiculous. And it might be one of the most unachievable things in Hearthstone, ever again.
That's a 200-game sample size and almost a 70% win rate. 134 and 62.
The win streak to me is just...
The win streak is insanity.
It was like every other week I looked up and he just won something again.
Yep.
I remember that was going into the champs where he made top 4.
Yep. Just insane.
If A8 had drawn Thunderhead this turn, I think there might have been some potential here. It needed to be, I think, exactly Thunderhead, though.
Thunderhead and roll high on every Lightning Storm roll.
Yeah, I think that was the one way he could have gotten into this, because he's going to have to Lightning Storm this turn anyway. It does not look nearly as good. Decent, but not nearly as good.
No.
Admittedly, though, Saiyan is under a pretty considerable amount of pressure because of this. So the Hecklebot...
Double Sea Giant still left in the deck, plus a Cairn.
Yes, and I mean, that's the reason Saiyan doesn't want to play Hecklebot in this situation. So how does he, adequately defend himself?
Well, he can clear the board completely with just Lightning Storm and then the attack with the Lickum.
Yeah, so you use the Thunderhead to poke the 0-1, you use Lickum to hit the 2-2, and then you Lightning Storm? Or do you Lightning Storm and no, you use the Lightning Storm post to take less damage, and you use the small minions to finish off the Storm Chaser afterwards. But then A8 has Swamp Queen Hagatha, and that could be a massive swing in this game. One critical card could change this.
Yeah, Rain of Toads.
And so here, Saiyan attacking with the weapon first, I'm curious if this is correct. He could mitigate this damage to less.
I don't think so.
Why not? He could Lightning Storm first.
You Lightning Storm first, then what do you attack the weapon into? You'd have to attack it into the 3-4. So this takes one less damage than attacking it into the 3-4. Also, he gets the added benefit of if he rolls high on the Storm Chaser, he can stick an extra 1-1 on the board.
Sure, I guess my question is a 3-2 Thunderhead any better than a 3-1 Thunderhead?
You'd still have to attack into the Storm Chaser.
Also, does the damage he takes matter in this situation, too? It's kind of semantics, is what I'm getting at.
Ooh.
Witch's Brew with the Hagatha card, I actually don't know if it's repeatable to hand, and I'm curious about that. Because if that's the case, you can use it after you attack minions on board and buy back some value, and then spend your other 4 mana healing minions on board. Don't know. I've never seen that interaction.
Regardless, though, not great options.
Well, Big Bad Voodoo's pretty good.
It could be, but he doesn't have too many great I guess the...
Saiyan's hand is pretty dry.
Dressfar Horror, there it is.
Pretty good upgrade, though. So Thunderhead, I think, might be seeing a 5-drop this turn. I'm curious how many more Overload cards are really left for Saiyan at this point. Both Sludge Slurpers gone. We're looking at both Lightning Storms gone. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, both Zaps gone.
Not much of an upgrade. One of my favorite rogue legendaries that is just so low health. Such a cool card. Just
reasonably cool.
It's a cool card.
Adequately cool.
I think it's really cool. I just think 2 health on 5 mana is a little bit weak. And when I say a little bit weak, I mean really weak.
Unless my 5 mana 4/2 is killing a 7 attack or more minion, I'm not putting it in my deck. Thinking about the totem up, but
still mindful of Sea Giant. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It's a little bit weird this turn because the only other thing it enables is like Cairn into Sea Giant. You know your opponent has the Drustvar, the Tot 2 spells token. Fork Lightning Farsight.
Oh, nailed it.
Wow. A8, I think, just pulled ahead.
I mean, I think he, honestly, whatever that Drustvar Horror had in it, as long as it had any impact whatsoever on the board.
I mean, that was massive impact on the board.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning Storm 2 would have been great. Even Rain of Toads would have been fantastic.
I mean, he just nailed the Forked Lightning. Just like, hit the 2 you want. This is a full clear, 4 minions in play, Bloodlust in hand. Saiyan's at 12. This game, like we talked about gas being an issue. Swamp Queen Hagatha is gas. Ziliax available with Hecklebot now. So you can magnetize the Ziliax onto that.
But still 2 Sea Giants in the deck, and there's really not that many minions.
You don't have an option, I don't think.
It's very likely to pull a Sea Giant. Pulls an Unbound Elemental. Okay, that's...
So now Saiyan The fact that it pulled a weaker minion gives Saiyan a ton of breathing room in this spot. He still needs to draw out of this because A8's going to have initiative on this turn. But getting 6 extra health on this, having a 6/10 lifesteal taunt up is a massive deal. So looking at A8's deck, Hex, undoubtedly the best draw. 1 lone copy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm killing the 5/5. Wow. Wow.
So that's a full board with Bloodlust. He needs 3 minutes to attack through. Just Saying would be at 30.
Oh, you're more concerned with value at this point, I think, than you are with Bloodlust being a lethal blow. I think in this stage, A8 really needs to think about the turn, how he pulls ahead, and then lands the Cairn next turn to try to buy the game back. And so attacking with the 1/1 first means he has board space to create an extra 1/1.
Also buffs the Unbound Elemental.
So it looks like he'd rather play the Cairn this turn. And perhaps just pass in this spot. I mean, Saiyan's already at 30. Do you need to use Bloodlust in this spot? Now, that attack looked a little suspicious to me.
There is little time.
Hagatha would be the reason.
Yeah, but if you expect Hagatha, I'm pretty sure you're just Bloodlusting and trading all your minions to consolidate
Also,
your board anyway.
A draw of Hagatha's scheme. 1 damage would clear it off. And so A8 is taking into consideration all those factors, is going to opt to just kill off the Heckle bot. Which, I think if you're going to play Cairn, I don't necessarily agree with. But if Saiyan had drawn Hagatha in that spot, you would really regret not having attacked with those 1/1s.
I wonder.
I think it's smart. I think A8 realized that, you know what, Saiyan's going back up to 30 anyway. The Bloodlust is probably the most valuable card in my deck right now. I need this to deliver a lethal blow. I think it's smart. When I initially thought it was absolutely Bloodlust, and the more I think about it, I think he's right to hold it.
But the longer you wait, the more time that Saiyan has to draw the big, powerful tools in his deck.
Oh, boy. I mean, that's a true story, but you're not going to kill him with the Bloodlust, and you're not even getting close, I don't think. But you do keep 3/5s.
The problem is, Just Saying can keep picking apart this board. And then you're never going to get a 7-minion Bloodlust. Regardless if your opponent's at 30 health or not. I mean, after the end of that turn, he would have been at
I wonder.
like 15.
The thing about it is Saiyan's draws are so hit or miss at this stage, which is one of the reasons I agree with A8 in this situation. We're looking at an Earthshock, 2 Witch's Brew, a Hecklebot, a Hex.
But the thing is, his board would have actually been almost better because he still would have had a 3/5 Unbound Elemental. He still would have had a 3/5 Thunderhead. He would have had 2 1/1s left after trading 3 in.
You're not wrong.
And he would have been able to play Cairn next turn. Now, he would have never had the Bloodlust pressure again because he only has 1 copy in the deck. But it's a matter of, okay. Spellpower Totem roll would allow him to deal with the Cairn immediately.
You'll take Taunt Totems, though. Extra health means live extra long.
And now are you just playing the reduce the amount of stuff on board plan?
Oh, I can't imagine not Earthshocking this Cairn.
Yeah.
I really cannot.
Earthshocking one of the elementals would allow him to completely clear off both of those elementals and limit the board space, the board, to just 2 minions.
The thing, I mean, that's worth considering. That's the thing. You know, Saiyan, if he has the time, he might as well think about it. He's very capable and comfortable thinking about those situations. So I absolutely encourage him to take his time in that situation. And he doesn't necessarily need to Earthshock right away. He can wait to Earthshock whenever he'd like because it's a 0-mana card.
Yeah.
It's not like the Cairn's dying this turn.
Yeah.
So now Sea Giant picked up. A8 has started to find the big top end of the deck. There's still 1 Sea Giant left there.
And that's pretty much the end of his top end. He's only got 8 cards remaining. One of those is a Hex.
Yeah, Sea Giant was the nightmare card for Saiyan to see in that situation as well. He wanted to see one of the weaker draws. That did not show up. Hagatha shows up, though.
So he can isolate the Sea Giant.
Attack the 1/1, attack the 1/1, Earthshock the Cairn, Agatha. However, that leaves a Sea Giant in play. You are at 34. But now for the rest of the game, Saiyan's draws look much better in that regard. Still 2 Witch's Brew left in the deck, though. That, to me, is one of the big worries. That card is a giant miss right now. Still 2 Walking Fountains left in the deck, though.
2 Walking Fountains.
And so Saiyan opting to say the Sea Giant and a 1/1 is worth less to me, because if the Sea Giant gets set to 3 health, what that means is generating a Lightning Bolt allows me to wipe out the Sea Giant in this situation.
Or just a Walking Fountain to be able to trade over something and then Walking Fountain the Sea Giant.
Correct.
To get that heal.
And you see him almost cringe at the healing totem, like, I was playing for this Lightning Bolt out off the minion I'm about to play. Walking Fountain gets drawn, and so now it's, I mean, at this point, he's playing an A8, you can see. Oh my gosh!
What?
A huge pickup from the Agatha!
way.
Saiyan, massive lead at this point. Missequenced the attack here, though.
Yes, he did.
He would have a 4-8 in play rather than a 4-7, but I don't think that's going to matter. Saiyan,
it doesn't matter. He's at 30.
Second Sea Giant.
But the problem is, AH just has no way to develop a board.
Yes, and under threat from 8 damage against this Walking Fountain as well. So the Sea Giant's first attack has to attack the Walking Fountain next turn.
Yeah, and if Just Saying picks up, let's just say, any card in his deck, which he's guaranteed to.
Imagine if you drew a card every turn.
Yeah, that's a card in his deck.
Wow, major pickup. He drew a card.
That draws a card.
That's 2 cards.
All right, well, okay.
That is easily the weakest card at this point, but there's still a second copy of that left. This game is not over yet. A8 can still win from this position because Saiyan is running out of quality cards. There's a Witch's Brew. There's 2 copies of Hagatha's Scheme. There's an Archmage Vargoth. There's a Hecklebot.
1 copy of Hagatha's Scheme?
Has he used a Hagatha's Scheme this game?
Yeah.
He did. He used it
on
early
the
on,
Sun
correct.
River War Mage board.
The Hecklebot, however, has gone way up in value at this point. There is no big stuff left in A8's deck. Oh, Feral Spirit gets drawn. Extra stuff is mighty good right now.
Oh, yeah.
And every opportunity to make more minions and keep the board stable is a big deal. And now A8 has so many minions in play that Saiyan needs to be able to wipe the board. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12,
27.
plus 15. A8 can draw for lethal next turn. But what can he draw?
Lightning Bolt?
There's 1 copy of Lightning Bolt left? Is there 2? There can't be 2.
No.
I'd be losing my mind. I didn't think I was going to take notes this game because I didn't think it was going to go this long.
Okay. Whew.
I don't think you Bloodlust here in A8's spot. And now him holding that, now what do you think, TJ? Do you think he couldn't go long this game? I told you this deck does not run out of gas. It's good.
You called it an aggro deck.
It is an aggro deck. It's a good aggro deck. I'll tell you what, this is not the Shaman game I expected, but it's the Shaman game I wanted.
So a couple things. Saiyan has 5 cards left. He has a 1 and 5 to draw Walking Fountain. If you don't Bloodlust this turn, Walking Fountain cleans up the 2 3s, puts Saiyan back up to nearly full health, and your Bloodlust just lost a ton of value.
He's going up to 12 either way if you use the Bloodlust this turn. I'm sorry, he'll go up to 11. Oh, so that's an interesting point then. A8 knows that Saiyan's hand is some combination of Witch's Brew and Hagatha's schemes. He absolutely knows that's the case. So Hex will eliminate 8 damage from this board. You get to heal up for 12 more. I think that's got to be the play. And then you're under threat of 22, so you're still not dead from that spot. But the options are getting thin at this point. You absolutely want to opt to keep the 0 cost 1 because obviously you're going to 30 from Witch's Brew this turn. Thunderhead gets drawn. Big pickup.
The problem is A8's max damage with Bloodlust, even if he plays Thunderhead this turn,
7 plus 21.
it's not lethal from 30.
But Saiyan's got to heal to 30.
He's got to heal to 30, that's correct. And that's why I kind of like the Thunderhead in this position, because it does threaten lethal if he doesn't heal.
Archmage Vargoth, Hecklebot, Hagatha's Scheme, and one more card is left for
Walking
Saiyan.
Fountain.
And Walking Fountain. Those are the 4 cards left. So Hagatha's Scheme doesn't affect really any of this. It wipes a Toad off board. Walking Fountain gets drawn. And so now, that's going to kill some minions. Voltaic Burst, that helps kill more minions. But A8 has ways to fight back against this. Has a Hex for the Fountain. Has Zap plus the Thunderhead. He has ways to keep fighting in this position. Saiyan is not out of the water yet.
So, and the problem for Saiyan is once this goes to fatigue, he has no way to generate anything else, whereas A8 can just toad him up every turn and eventually kill him. The problem is he's at 5 health and has no way to heal. So he's only got 3 turns once it does hit fatigue. But honestly,
3 turns is enough, I'm pretty sure.
It might be. So right now he has...
And Lightning Bolt drawn now means that a full board is threat of lethal from 30. Excuse me, it would not be because there's no 2 attack minions in play.
Yeah.
Forgive me.
So right now it's 21 or 22 damage burst.
So we're looking at Zap, attack the Walking Fountain with the minion, roll a totem,
I wonder.
and hit face.
And Saiyan still has 2 minions left in the deck, plus a Hagatha Scheme. So
Yeah, the scheme here is starting to become a little bit more impactful because there's 2 1-health minions in play, and this will make a 3rd 1-health minion. And with the Voltaic Burst, that wipes out a lot of the board. So even Hagatha's Scheme is a reasonable draw in this spot. This game is nuts.
lethal presented with Bloodlust plus Lightning Bolt. I think that's exactly 35 on board, plus the 21, that's 26, plus the 4 damage from the Lightning Bolt because of the Spell Power Totem. So
right.
If Just Saiyan were to do nothing this turn, he would die. And he needs to know there's only 2 cards left. The odds that he has Bloodlust and Lightning Bolt at this point are pretty high, and I don't think you're going to risk the game for that kind of scenario.
Honestly, I think the way that A8's hand has played out, it's pretty darn close to 100% of the time. You know, it's a hand reading measure that goes into that, but you're pretty darn close to 100%. So I think this has to be the play, and you have to rely on your Hecklebot.
I'm almost out of cards.
And whatever you get, the Archmage Vargoth. The Vargoth could be a big deal as well, depending on what comes out of the Hagatha. Ethereal Lackey gets picked up. Major draw for A8. The Stormbringer with 7 mana up. No! Are you kidding me? And look at A8. He's not sure what he wants to do with it because there's a chance. Is there any chance this goes awry with Stormbringer?
3 Baron Geddons, he dies.
So there is a chance that A8 can lose from his own Stormbringer. I'm curious if you need to go for this. There is a Baron Geddon. Saiyan can get a Lightning Bolt from Hagatha next turn.
Cards. Or Lava Burst.
But it opens the out. Rockbiter weapon would do it. In fatigue now is A8, but Saiyan doesn't have a way to deal any damage. If A8 cannot kill Saiyan next turn, which he clearly absolutely can, he would lose to his own Baron Geddon.
Wow.
Saiyan needed 2 more damage to win this game. 2.
It would have been the Totemic Smash, I don't know, the 1 mana.
Totemic Smash, that would have won as well.
Lava Burst, Lightning Bolt.
It like quadrupled the outs in the situation it was in.
Wow.
But it doesn't matter because A8 has got the juice.
On the very last turn.
Massive damage.
What the?
Insane start to this series.
I mean, at that point, it was just 2 Baron Geddons. that would have lost him the game. One pair getting away. What an insane game